On the official Pointer Crate leaderboard, a website measuring the hardest verified and rated extreme demons, sits the number one player Zoink at the top of the player list. Known for their speedy completions and impressive verifications, Zoink has undoubtedly raised the bar of the playing community, bringing us such levels as Avernus, Nullscapes, Acheron, and the current number one level on the demon list, Tidal Wave. Verified on September 10th, 2023, Tidal Wave has obtained a bewildering 2 other victors over the last 456 days, give or take. It's honestly mind-boggling how we as a community are creating such hard levels that only the top 1% can beat, and still try to dethrone the hardest completions. As of December 9th, 2024, 3 of Geometry Dash's best and brightest players go head-to-head in verifying the next hardest level in the entire game, and this is arguably one of the most exciting times to be a part of the playing community. Top players Doggy, W Popoff, and Trick all race to either be the first to verify their top 1 projects or to reign as the next hardest accomplishment in the game, each verifying Grief, Amethyst, and Vehemence respectively. As of currently writing this script, Trick is the closest to coming out on top, with an impressive 61% run from 0. Amethyst has an end screen that lasts about 20% of the level, which means Trick has a lot less gameplay to deal with, unlike Doggy, who is probably the second closest to verifying their level, having an 80% run from 0. W Popoff, on the other hand, has had slower progress lately compared to the other 2, but recently started streaming Vehemence again on Twitch. Now, you may be wondering already, what does this have to do with the title of the video? Sure, these are ridiculously hard extremes, but let's get honest here for a second, and say that these are not the permanently hardest levels in the game. What I mean by that is that we know for sure that levels can be a whole lot harder than these 3, which is why I gathered you all here today. In this video, I want to make the best educated guess as to what is going to be the permanent top 1 demon on the demon list. A level that is so hard, no matter how hard people try, no one will ever be able to beat something harder. First, let's make a few ground rules, because as this video progresses, things are going to get really speculative fast. You'll see what I mean. For starters, let's assume that A, all levels we will talk about being theoretically beaten in the future will be fully decorated, verified in 1 run, and rated. And B, all levels mentioned in the video will be verified legitimately according to the quote-unquote current game engine and community's beliefs as to what is considered legitimate. Basically what this means is that we will assume everything gets verified within the physics parameters of when it's completed, such as if RobTop randomly adds CBF mechanics to the game, or by raising the TPS from 240 to 360. We only want to discuss levels that can be beaten without any external advantages or downloadable softwares of any nature. I'm mainly adding these rules in order to keep the video interesting, because let's face it, we know damn well that Eternus is not getting verified on vanilla 2.2 physics. Now that we have that out of the way, let's continue. So as of right now, we have a surprisingly good idea of what levels are to be verified in 2025, or at least in the first half. We are about 80% guaranteed to see such levels as Amethyst, Grief, Vehemence, Flamewall, and Banshee each having an equally fair chance at snatching the number 1 position on the list. The only one of these 5 levels that would be a bit of a stretch would be Banshee, as the verifier SP Crate says it could land anywhere in the top 1 to 3. And since they are frankly an unreliable source of difficulty opinions, it's safe to say that Banshee has a bit less of a chance of dethroning Tidal Wave than the others do. So we'll keep this in my own curveball category, as I am not completely dismissing the idea of Banshee becoming a top 1 upon verification, but I would not count on that outcome right now. That just leaves us with these 4. Assuming Amethyst is verified and released first, then we already know what our next top 1 will be. But what about after that? The difficulty gap between Grief and Vehemence is much slimmer than that of Amethyst, but just because of how insane W Popoff is at the game, I'd say our best bet of the top 1 following Amethyst would be Vehemence, meaning that Grief will either obtain the top spot for a very narrow time period, or just outright be denied it entirely. But then we have Flamewall, and I will confidently say that Flamewall beats all of these levels. Think about it. After seeing 400's new difficulty comparison between their version and 1 Alpha Helix's old version, literally what happened? Alpha said that the base gameplay was originally harder than most of the levels in the top 10 at the time, and now 400's version cranks up the base gameplay to 11. It's downright insane that this is a real project being verified, but you can only sit back and pray for this person. Granted, the base gameplay will be easier in comparison to that of Grief, Amethyst, or Vehemence, but we need to remember how long each of these levels are. Amethyst being the shortest at only 1 minute and 45 seconds, Vehemence standing at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and Grief being about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. These times dwarf in contrast to Flamewell's staggering length, clocking in at nearly 7 minutes long. For any of the previous levels to put up a fight against 400's super buffed version of Flamewell, basically every click would have to be Megadeth super kill you world 120Hz frame perfects if we're being realistic here. I mean, just look at some of the runs they've gotten. Earlier, I mentioned this curveball category as well, and I want to include a few more predictions from that. Some honorable mentions will be Teeth Fortress 2, It Means Everything, Injury, and Ouroboros. We don't really know how hard some of these are up against the main four we're discussing, but it's not out of the question that one of these could surprise the community and steal the #1 spot without warning. Teeth Fortress 2 is supposedly harder than Tidal Wave, with barely any evidence backing this up. It Means Everything and Ouroboros are predicted to be top 2 difficulty, which could change between now and their verifications. And Injury is projected to be top 5 at minimum, but you never know what could happen with any of these. So to wrap up the end of the 2025 prediction, Flamewell will surely come out victorious as a top 1 spot. So, end of the video? Right? Yeah, you wish. There's still a lot more levels to go through, so let's get started. Alright, so to clarify really quick, things are going to become much more speculative way faster now, and this is probably where most prediction issues will arise. I'm going to combine 2026 and 2027 predictions because most of these are way harder to calculate an approximated date of verification due to immense difficulty, minimal opinions, and slow completion status. I believe our 4 best possible predictions of what is to be verified in around 2026 to 2027 are Heliopolis, Kingdom of Miracles, Silent Acropolis, and Cosmos Unleashed. So the issue here is that the best progress on any of these 4 levels is from Silent Acropolis on the layout version. Yeah, this guy Bop right here has ridiculous progress such as 31 to 100, a no-clip run of 70% and 3 deaths, and 33 to 80. Like, that's insane.
I'm gonna kill myself.
Now, it's a bit more apparent that most of the difficulty on Silent Acropolis comes from its decoration, since Ravens was progressing much slower on their copy of the decorated version, while they had it as a verification. The second best progression out of these levels is from Heliopolis, being 16% from 0 and 60 to 100. Hey, wait a second, what happened to this whopping 46% run from Jif? Well, lots of things have happened since I made this video, so I better catch you up to speed real fast. Top player Thunder picked up Heliopolis as initially a secret verification, and as of 2 weeks ago, has come forth and made the project public.
Okay. I did not expect that.
Thunder has stated that Heliopolis will now be harder than whatever the top 1 is at the time, or in other words, this level went from originally being a top 2 underneath Tidal Wave to potentially being harder than Grief, Vehemence, and Flamewell. Being a level entirely surrounded by slow speed timing inputs, the gameplay in this level got abused to the fullest, turning into basically 2.5 minutes of the 3rd variant. I was tempted to make this a 2025 top 1 prediction due to this absolute prodigy getting their hands on the level, but when I saw that Thunder has spent well over 100,000 attempts and not even attaining a run over 40% is mind-bending. Like, this is the same person who beat Spectre, a top 6, in a measly 13,000 attempts, just to put that into perspective. But we still have 2 more possible top 1s to talk about in this time period, and the first of that is Cosmos Unleashed. We listen and we don't judge. Let's be real for a second and admit how much of a cash grab this level is. Cosmos isn't even 2 years old right now, and we're already getting the unnerfed impossible version redecorated and verified by Shadow, an undoubtedly amazing player.
Что? На самом деле это не 38, короче, сразу.
We really don't know much about the estimation of when this will be beaten, much less of when it will be finished decorating, so it's hard to pinpoint a time frame when either of these will happen. Shadow has amazing progress on the layout version, but that's the problem. They might as well be sitting on their ass twiddling their thumbs rather than practicing this version, since the decorated version might as well be an entirely new level at this point. The decoration and 2.2 shaders will surely make up over half of this level's difficulty by a long shot, and I can only wish Shadow the best of luck. Kingdom of Miracles, on the other hand, is set up to be W Pop-Off's next big verification, and if we know anything about how hard Vehemence is going to be,
I hope this level fucking never gets verified.
Who even knows how hard Kingdom of Miracles will have to be to not only surpass both Behemoths and Flamewall, but including whatever happens to be the top one by the time W Pop-Off finishes this off. The decoration is at a much slower progress than that of Cosmos Unleashed, which is saying something for sure. But before I lock in my prediction, some curveball levels that could shake things up would include Vivisect, Sweeping Demon 2, the National Anthem, and Eternal Night. Frankly, a lousy lineup in my eyes. If Vivisect ever manages to get finished, we have no idea how hard it's going to be, since it was estimated to be top 1 at the time of Slaughterhouse's reign, which we know where it is now. Honestly, there is actually zero chance Sweeping Demon 2 is still as hard as we make it out to be. Yeah, in my Future the Demonless video, I gassed this up like crazy, but in reality, I don't think it's all that hard anymore. I might have been tripping back then. It's probably because no one wants to sit down and verify it. The National Anthem was kinda just added out of my own will, and it could have a shot at dethroning Bubawamba as the next hardest memory level someday, but I highly doubt it will ever be at the top 1 spot. Same with Eternal Night. I made an entire video about the level status and why it shouldn't be forced to be a top 1 anymore, and I am praying nobody takes it upon themselves to buff it beyond comprehension and surpass deserving projects like Heliopolis and Silent Acropolis. But you just never know these days, and for the record, it's guaranteed that more levels will be created to be placed this high on the list between now and then, so really just take these predictions how you will. This is just for fun at the end of the day. Now, to make my final prediction as to what the next top 1 will be during this time period, I'm gonna have to say Heliopolis. Don't make me explain why. Good luck to Thunder on this, and I would love to be proven wrong as to when I imagine this gets verified. So now we're getting into more of the infamous levels in the video, but that also means these extremes will be even harder to make predictions about when they could be verified and whether or not they would be the hardest completion at their time of their verifications. The difficulty on some of these are so much harder than what we can comprehend today, which is why it's so strenuous to rank some of these levels over others. Before we start this section, let's just assume that these verifications are going to happen well after the last wave of extremes we just discussed, so much after the period of Heliopolis and Kingdom of Miracles. There's really no point in trying to make an educated guess as to what the time frame will be, so instead let's just classify this as the Beyond list, taking place in the years 2027 and after. The main levels we will talk about here are Misanthrope, Ascension to Heaven, Galaxy Collapse, Orochi, and the Human Limit. I've already talked about some of these levels a lot, so I won't take up too much time with them, but I'll still try and talk about them a little bit. Misanthrope is a tricky one, as the progress on building the level has been so slow, it could finally be finished when we reach this theoretical time frame, not even including the time it'll take to verify. Misanthrope is nearly 6 minutes in length, which is absurd until you remember Flamewall is nearly 7 minutes. The difference between these levels is that the unnerfed Misanthrope layout on the public servers still probably has harder base gameplay than some of the levels in the top 10 today, despite being made back in 2020. Some of the most recent records on Misanthrope is actually from this video by Lord Vadercraft, being Misanthrope in 3 runs by 3 different people. Laser managed to get a 33% run from 0, tying with Trick's record, and Vader managed to achieve a hefty run of 32 to 59. But coming out on top, the legend Big Mac GD got the baffling run of 58 to 100, absolutely insane.
$58 to 100. 58 to 100, dude. What?
Ascension to Heaven is actually surprisingly similar, as the building progress of the level has been taking much longer than what was initially thought, as well as being super long, clocking in at 5 minutes in length. I can't really talk about records on Ascension to Heaven since none of those really exist. Neither of these upcoming extremes are going to be finished anytime soon, but it's still important to note them due to their infamy and history within the Demonless community. Another contender for the top spot is Galaxy Collapse, which is one of my personal favorites on this Beyond category. Originally being hosted and set to be verified by Trusta, which goes to show how long ago this happened, is a 4-minute extreme with some of the most well-recognized wave gameplay. The progress on this level has slowed to a crawl over time, but I believe some newly decorated gameplay was previewed somewhat recently, which looked extremely promising, but I could be wrong. Next is Orochi, which is probably never going to be finished in our lifetimes, but let's still talk about it anyway. Hosted by Novelboy, Orochi is a super Inferno Extreme Demon which is hyped up in the community for a very long time, dating back to April of 2018. We have little to no progress on completions of Orochi, minus a mole progress on the original version, which is meaningless to point out since the difficulty of that one wouldn't even be able to be considered top 75 today in my opinion. Lastly, let's talk about Grandpa Demon the Human Limit, which has strikingly taken on its own identity over the years, starting its life as a lazy Slaughterhouse remake to become a fully fledged project standing on its own. It's honestly really funny that this part of the level by Carver despite being made 3 years ago, has remained exactly the same, while Sneeze and others completely redid like 80% of the level. Carver must be the holy spirit the way they ain't messing with their work. This is another case of zero progress on a level, which is understandable since the human limit does not seem to have any public copies available on the servers as of today. Alright, that was the easy part. Now we must decide which of these levels is the best possible chance of conquering the rest and becoming top 1. But before we decide, let's have a look at some of the curveball levels in this time period. This is going to be the longest list so far, so bear with me for a moment. Such levels that could see a change of events and either become top 1 unintentionally or be super buffed to top 1 difficulty are Azure Flare, Peach Vomit, YGG Draysale, Tethys, Violent, Return Zero, Unnamed 666, Titano Machina, Minus World, Heaven for the Weekend, and Ephemeral Abyss. Briefly going over each level, Azure Flare has about a 0% chance of being verified at the moment, and about a negative 100% chance of being rated, considering Raptop doesn't even like to rate 9 circles levels this willingly before. But let's just pretend Raptop would rate it out of its infamous title, such as he did with Silent Club Step. There is still no one willing to try and verify this right now. Peach Vomit is downright my favorite upcoming level on this curveball list, but I get a really strong feeling that it will be nerfed before it is finished, bringing it down from its top 1 status. Considering that this would be our undisputed best looking top 1 we'll ever have, I would sure like to see its difficulty remain untouched before it's finished. YGG Draysale and Violent are both set to be top 1 difficulty right now and are effect heavy levels made by Lisp. They're very good standing on their own, but I just don't see a world where they would obtain the status of being the hardest levels, being that whoever may verify them would probably nerf them, or they aren't as hard as estimated upon their completions. Yeah, Zoink is set to be the verifier of Violent right now, and we as a community know very well that if anyone can make a little top 1 difficulty, it's Zoink, but honestly, we'll just have to see. Tethys is supposed to follow the sequence of the Golden and Avernus, so if anyone is psycho enough to verify another Pock Windfish level, then we'll probably end up seeing this at either top 1 or top 2. Return Zero is a 17-minute memory mindcap level that was originally set to be verified by Nepesta. Yes, I know how in phase I just said 17-minute level, but come on, keep up with this, chop chop. Its progress slowed to a halt a while ago, it mindcap teased at a possible revival to the level, but I still highly doubt it will be top 1 upon verification. Unnamed 666, Minus World, and Him for the Weekend are all borderline impossible, but you never know how dedicated someone could be towards a level. Lastly, Titano Machina is another pick for a possible out of left field top 1, as the decoration doesn't seem to be continuing, but there could be a revival at some point and a dedicated player could try and tackle on this awkward mess of gameplay that is weirdly hypnotizing. Okay, now to wrap this up, out of these 5 levels, the one that has the best chance of rating superior compared to the other levels is going to have to be... This was very hard to come to a decision on, but my best educated guess is gonna have to be Misanthrope. Yeah, I know you were all hoping for one of the other legendary levels like Orochi or Galaxy Collapse, but let's face it, Misanthrope is on a whole new plane of difficulty. And this doesn't mean I have anything against the level, but I was just slightly hoping for a different project to take the face of difficulty in the future. Misanthrope will have everything done in its power to be a top 1 upon release, and it makes sense considering how much time and effort the hosts and creators have put into this project. Galaxy Collapse and Orochi feel like they wouldn't crash out if they were top 1 when verified, as they already have left enough of an imprint on the community. And honestly, it was very close, but Ascension to Heaven is probably still going to be top 1, but not longer than Misanthrope, if that makes sense. I would like to extend my most sincere gratitude if you made it this far into the video. This is unquestionably my longest and most tedious video by far, and I owe it to all of you for making this possible. Without your support, these videos would not be possible. Considering the amount of time these take, it means so much that there are people out there who genuinely enjoy what I create. Didn't mean to get real there for a second, so sorry about that. I don't want to keep you here for too long, so let's continue to our final section. Finally, we have made it to the speculative section of the video. We are on the edge of possibilities as to how hard levels can get and what's possible to accomplish within our community. Because these upcoming levels are so hefty, I won't be including a curveball list this time and instead just focused on our attention to the 9 contenders of what our last top 1 could be. Which level could be the defining ending to our difficulty spectrum? What will take the throne for the last time? First, let's get this elephant in the room out of the way and talk about Aeternus. Could it ever be verified? In my own opinion, with enough time passing and players progressively improving at the game at a seemingly exponential rate, and if a singular player is truly dedicated enough, then yeah, I think Aeternus could eventually be verified. Some of these best progressions on Aeternus today are now a 15% record from 0, which is a big improvement from the 6% run in my Future of the Demonless video, as well as 84 to 100, and getting the whole level in 25 runs. I don't want to lock in a guess that Zoink or W Popoff will be the one to verify it, since they are way too recent in the playing community to even come close to trying this level out. I think that a new upcoming player, someone who would have to adapt to that new high skill ceiling at the time of Eternis's verification, would have the best possible shot at beating it. On the next level, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one, since it started out as bland Hellslop, but now it feels different enough than bland Hellslop. But somewhere along the line, I just decided it wasn't so bad anymore, I don't know where. This level being 5 minutes long with just straight up top 1 gameplay is jaw-dropping at the idea of someone ever trying to beat this behemoth of a demon. Adramelech does not fear holding back, and it is just in your face with difficulty. They are not scared to make a hard level as hard as possible. Next up, we have a fan favorite, and I know it, you know it, we all know it, the one and only Tun618. No, not that one, this one. Like Eternis, Tun618 has much more compressed difficulty, being only a little over a minute long. The high-speed wave precision gameplay does not hold back either, and it's honestly sick to think that there's a chance that one day, a person is going to take a crack at this. Fairy Knife Hell is quite the opposite, as its length and unforgiving gameplay and visuals have been declared humanly impossible by the creators of the level, which is a very bold stance to take. I think this was plotted by the creators and hosts to make someone try and prove them wrong to get this beast verified someday. Since it is technically possible to do a practice run from start to finish, it's just the fact that the gameplay and decoration are so intense that the visuals make up over 50% of the level's difficulty. This can kind of be applied to another level on the speculative list, Angelicide, but instead of just unforgiving gameplay and decoration, they decided to throw in some of that nice high CPS gameplay, just as a last middle finger to the player. I am personally a big fan of this level and how the progression of the level plays out. I'm a bit disappointed that 2.2 fixed the bug at the end of the level, because this is actually a cool visual to end it off on. There are a few small runs on this level that Kaza got from a while ago, but no real further progress has been made. But hopefully someday a player with enough skill and passion for the level can pull through on it. Coming up, personally the most forgettable level out of all of these, Annoyed Machine. When I say forgettable, I don't mean bad per se, it's just something that really exists as a meme. Following the concepts of Hard Machine and Minus Dry, Annoyed Machine is deceivingly difficult, filled with 120 and 240 Hz frame perfect inputs. Not just in cubes and other game modes, but for the ship too. In my opinion, ship is a contender for the most precise game mode, up there with Rave and Robot, and I cannot imagine someone is currently willing to try and learn ship frame perfects in a level. Moving on to another possibility for the final top 1 is how confusing is the level by Akunakun. This dials up the difficulty of Limbo way past 11 and just goes straight up to 100. Learning this level would probably be a top 20 achievement on its own, not even including runs on it. The gameplay is almost entirely invisible for about half of the level and is scattered with 120 Hz frame perfects. Following that, we have Scattered Faith, which is already projected to be the hardest top 1 in history, which doesn't make much sense the more you think about it, but that's neither here nor there. Scattered Faith does not mess around, and this high intensity gameplay that lasts for over 3 minutes looks like absolute insanity to try and conquer over. Scattered Faith is also a level that greatly benefited from the 2.2 editor, as these camera effects and decoration upgrades really elevate the level. And lastly, I thought I might as well throw in Silent Unknown. Hang with me for a second. This level is utterly impossible as of right now. Technically, every input in this level can be completed, but the real challenge is to try and do this all together. The deceivingly short length of the level does not mean this is easier by any means, as all of its compressed difficulty makes Silent Unknowns a complete train wreck of level balancing. Okay, now that we've covered all possibilities for the speculative section, I would like to note why exactly I consider this the speculative section. You've either been backing me up or completely disagreeing with the level picks I have for this part of the video, and I chose all of these specifically because I fully believe that all it takes is one person who has such a passion for a level, one person who cares deeply about what the fate of the level will be, just one person who puts in enough time, who is talented enough at the game, who is worthy of being the person to verify the level in question. There is no doubt in my mind that all 9 of these picks will be conquered someday. Let's take a look at the perfect example of a player, Kugelblitz. That name probably sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's because they have spent 7 years with Death Corridor. 7 years! Death Corridor, the possible version, has gone through so many changes in this time frame that the gameplay is probably indistinguishable from its original state. I have no clue what happened to this level, as it went from projected top 1 to easy, but the difficulty of the level is not the point. The point is that over 7 years, Kugelblitz has not been differed from this level that they clearly hold so close to themselves, which is why they are the perfect representation as to why any of these levels could be verified with this mindset. Obviously, we couldn't just pick up Kugelblitz and drop a keyboard in their hands and tell them to verify Eternus. But think about it, if someone who had a mindset and passion relatively close to theirs, who also happened to be at the same skill level as a player in the top 15 on Porner Crate, a level like Angelicide would be verified before the end of the decade for sure. I hope this little comparison gives a better insight as to why I selected any of these levels in the first place. But now, the hard part. Which one will become the last top one? I say last because realistically, how much harder can it get from here? Well, I can't really just pick one now, can I? These are all much too hard to try and rationalize a selection out of. So let's get some of these out of the way, starting with how confusing is the level, silent unknown, and annoyed machine. I singled out these extremes in particular due to the fact that I'm thinking on a much broader scale of time. When we reach the point that these levels are getting verified, these three don't really seem to stand out anymore in terms of difficulty. How confusing is the level gives really big Silent Clipset vibes, as in it will be verified, rated, placed, only for it to be underneath that top one spot surprisingly. Same applies for Annoyed Machine, which would parallel Hard Machine in terms of placing later on the list and not getting a top one spot. Silent Unknown also could get the Sakupin Circles effect, where it gets placed at number 1, then gets moved, then more and more and more. And I know my reasoning for this is literally because I said so, but my brain just thinks of these levels in a very specific way, and it also has to do with personal bias, so yeah. This is literally a video about possibilities, not facts. Now that we have 6 levels left, I'm gonna make the difficult decision and remove Scattered Faith and Fairy Knife Hell. These levels will probably either get verified so late that their difficulty tanks compared to what's in the top 3 at the time, or will get verified and revealed to be much less difficult than what is initially assumed today. Now we're down to our last 4, Eternus, Adramelech, Tun 618, and Angelicide. I don't think you guys have any idea how hard it is to decide among these 4. These are so much harder than anything currently being verified right now, much less than what's on the demon list today. So I did the sensible thing and asked the community, what level do you think is the hardest? And yes, don't remind me what the target audience is when I made these posts.
Adramelech because of the length and the tight ship. Eternus or Tun 618. Tun 618 is not even a top one in the impossible list. It's a top state and Tun 618 is...
Nope, that's it. I've had it with these uneducated opinions. I need some real opinions. Opinions from people that know exactly what it's like to play the top levels on the demon list. I have to go to the source. Hey there, welcome.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience first?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, my name is Kaza, I'm a top 15 GD player and my hardest demon currently is Kyoki.
Yeah, so you are very clearly a good player at the game, at least compared to myself. So I must ask, what made you want to start trying out Angelicide in the first place, despite it being borderline impossible?
Well, one day I saw that Bluesky uploaded a video of an impossible level and it looked kinda good in the thumbnail, so I decided to watch it, and from the very first 10 seconds I fell in love with the level. I like everything about it, the gameplay, the song and the deco, and it's very intense and overall it's my type of level.
Okay, so based off what you've experienced on there, how do you think it compares to other levels that you have beaten, such as Kiyuki?
It's kinda hard to judge since I don't have really big progress on it, but I know for a fact it's way harder than Tidal Wave.
Interesting. So after you have now put in quite a bit of effort into this level, what do you think makes it so hard?
The whole level needs to be played at around 7-8 CPS, especially the second drop, which is the fastest gameplay I've ever played. And you also need to be very precise, which adds a lot to the difficulty.
Okay, so what do you think some of the hardest parts are?
As I said before, I think the hardest part is the second drop. Currently it's unchanged, but I plan to make it possible first, then see what nerfs or buffs I make while also giving it fast.
Alrighty, and finally, I must ask, based off the progress both you and Hammy have on the level, do you think that someone could verify it someday?
Definitely. If someone spends a really long time on it, then it will get verified, and that's what my plan is.
Nice, alright. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Well, there we have it. We have officially made our prediction as to what the final level will be to reign over the rest on the demon list. The level that could not possibly be outdone, as it truly does not get any harder than this. As of right now. Yeah, I mean, look, here it is, in our face. Look at that. But things change in this community so fast that this prediction could straight up be outdated by the end of 2025, or even by the time I'm done with this video. This is the best possible prediction that we can make today while only working with what we know now, and it is almost guaranteed that something will happen between now and Angelicide's verification that will change the playing field entirely. So today, we can walk away knowing that Angelicide is probably our best bet as to what's to come from the demon list around the end of this decade. I want to give a massive thank you to Kaza for taking time out of their day to help me with this video. I am literally writing this script right now, and oh my god, I am very scared to see how long this will take. Before you guys go, a quick promotion from me. I stream here on YouTube, so you ought to turn on notifications to come stop by and watch. I think I'm a pretty chill guy, but you can decide for yourself, I guess. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I will see you all next time. Take care. You've probably been either backing me up completely. You've either been backing me up or completely